Hey YouTube, Common Collector here, and today I'm coming at you with my Pure Blue Eyes White Dragon deck build. This is a deck that I've really come to like. I was originally going to be using it as a Guard Dragon build, but going with the more Pure Blue Eyes and with some of the other cards that you can utilize like Super Poly and whatnot, I really like this, so I will be doing a Rocket Guard Dragon build in the future, so please subscribe to the channel if you want to see what that will look like. But for now, I think that Pure Blue Eyes is a little bit stronger than the Guard Dragon engine since we lost Agripane. So anyways, going on here, we have 3 of the Blue Eyes White Dragon, pretty standard for any Blue Eyes deck. And then going on into the 3 alternatives, you should definitely run at least 2 alternative if you can afford it, but 3, in my opinion, is just a little bit better. So there's plenty of spot removal in this deck, especially with the alternatives and the rest of the cards in here, that you don't even need to run twin twisters or anything like that, unless your opponent is running something like floodgates or skill drain, stuff like that, that you can't get around. Then you go more into side decking. But anyways, then we are running 3 of the Danger Bigfoot and 2 of the Danger Thunderbird in this deck. You could also bump Thunderbird up to 3, but I didn't really find any space for it in this deck, so I kept that down to 2. 1 Chaos Levianeer, 1 Dragon Spirit of White. I don't really care for Dragon Spirit that much, but it is a very good target to use it for Dragon Shrine and whatnot, so I do like having the 1 copy in here, and again, he adds a little bit more spot removal. Then going on, obviously the 1 Red Eyes Darkness Metal. Gotta have that in any dragon-centric deck. Then going on to the tuners, we have 3 Sage with Eyes of Blue. So Sage is just really nice for ditching the rest of your tuners to the graveyard in order to get a little bit more field advantage and whatnot. So going on then, 2 White Stone of Ancients and 1 White Stone of Legend. You don't really need more than 1 White Stone of Legend in this deck, because if you do end up drawing into 2, or even, for God's sakes, if you drew into 3 of them, you're never going to get this effect off more than once. So I really do just like keeping that at 1. And it's another target for you to ditch to the grave with Dragon Shrine. So really just the 1 copy is needed because you can get it off so easily in other ways. Then going on, we have a black and white dragon. Moving on into the hand traps, we have 3 Nibiru. Now, this is your easiest card to side deck out. If your opponent is not playing a combo-heavy deck, you can definitely get rid of the Nibirus. Besides that, though, for the last monsters that we have in this deck is 3 Ash Blossom. Ash Blossom is just really good up against any deck, so I highly suggest keeping the 3 of this in there. So anyways, we'll move on to the spells now. As for spells, as I alluded to earlier, I'm running 3 Super Polys in this deck. I used to not run Super Poly very much, but just the way that the current meta is sitting right now, I believe that Super Poly is just a seriously strong card to use. There's light and dark attributes that you have in this deck with the dangers. Super Poly gets really good because you can go for those dark targets. So, and we just have so many cards to fuse into with Super Poly nowadays that it's a card that you could run in pretty much any deck and you'll be able to get it off at some point. Next, going on, since we have so many level 8 monsters, I am running 3 Trade-In. I'm not running Cards of Consonance just because there's only 3 targets for it in this deck. You know, Sage is not a target for Cards of Consonance, even though Sage can add one of the tuners into your hand. I just really think that keeping the trade-ins and not going with Cards of Consonance is a better idea. Moving on, I like to run 3 Called by the Grave in the deck, pretty standard also with any deck. 3 Called by the Grave just to make sure that all of your effects go off. Next we have 2 Melody of Awakening Dragon, 2 Return of the Dragon Lords, and 1 Monster Reborn. This essentially runs 3 Monster Reborns in the deck, and my gosh, I just love the artwork on this card. I don't have any of the secret rares of this, but this is probably in my top 10 cards of my favorite artwork, because Blue Eyes is just such an iconic card from the TV show and whatnot, and even for the game, that I just love the picture of this guy worshiping over the Blue Eyes. So, and then going on into the 1 Dragon Shine. That is going to finish it off for the deck. This is a 43 card deck. I originally had it at 40 before I decided on the Super Polys, and I just couldn't really figure out a way to make it shorter, so I am running this deck at 43 cards. So moving on though, we'll go on into the extra deck. I am running, just for the synchros, I only have two. One of the Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon and one Azure Eyes Silver Dragon. Also, one of the really cool parts of this deck is that you are able to run all of the types of extra monster cards. So you have, except for Pendulum, so you have Synchros, Fusions, XZs, and Links, which I think is really cool. So going on now into the Fusions, we have one Predaplant Dracostepalia, one Mud Dragon of the Swamp. He's a card that you can really go into quite a bit. Then going on, we have one of the Starving Venom, probably the most likely card that you are able to run in the, that you're able to go into. So I really like that. Going on now, we have one 38 Hope Harbinger, probably your best XZ target to go into. Then we have the number 90 Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, and to rank up over him, we have the Full Armor Dragon. So then going on into the Link monsters, I run one Link Karibo, one IP Masquerena. Then, since it's a dragon deck, one Galaxy Satellite, which you can use on your Hope Harbinger, one Nightmare Unicorn Saryuja, one Boral Sword, and then finally one Appaloosa just to finish it off. I know that some of the cards in the extra deck here, especially Appaloosa, is not very budget, but besides Appaloosa and your Blue Eyes Alternative Dragons, this deck is pretty budget and it's very fun to play, so I highly suggest it. So now we'll go on into the side deck. So as for side deck options, I usually don't do side decking too much for my videos, but just some extra options. I have two Solemn Warnings there, and then as I mentioned before, if your opponent is playing some sort of floodgate cards that's stopping all of your monsters' effects, you might want to run cards like Twin Twisters and MST. Then, since we have our trade-ins, if you do need to sneak out your Nibiru's because you're not playing a combo-heavy deck, one Tempest is a good card to keep. That way you still have another level 8 target to ditch. Even I know that Nibiru is not a level 8 target for trade-in, but again, you just add an extra one into your deck. Then going on, two of the Dino Wrestler Pankratops, pretty standard. Then I run 3 Lancia and 3 Scythe, which is starting to become even more and more common nowadays for side decking, is having 3 and 3 of those. And then finally, I just run a couple of extra fusions, one extra Starving Venom, just in case you're playing a dark deck and you can really get that effect off a lot. Or if you're playing Salamangrates and you want to go on into Violet Chimera. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for my deck profile. I really hope you guys liked it. I have been in love with running a Blue Eyes deck my whole career as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, so I really do like this deck. Let me know in the comments what you guys also are interested about this deck or others that I've been mentioning coming up, the Rocket Guard Dragon, or if you guys want to see combo videos on this. I know that there's not really combos you can do with this deck, but if you guys do want to see sort of like a live duel or anything like that, because I feel like doing a combo video, you know, everything in this deck just sort of works in its own together, so there's not really any like 1 or 2 card combos that I can show, more like something that would be better in a live duel. So just let me know in the comments. Common Collector out. Thanks for hanging, guys.